Hey, good afternoon. This is Lunch with Laura. Thank you for spending just a little bit of your lunch with me. Today we're going to be talking about when one parent alienates the other. So what does that mean? That sounds like kind of legalese, and in a sense it is. So let me just split this open and start unpacking, okay? Come on, there we go. Sorry. Okay, so when one parent alienates the other, what does that mean? That means when one parent is kind of blocking contact that the other parent has with your kid, with their child. And so what can that kind of look like, and how do you kind of guard against making sure you're not being accused of doing that? Because sometimes, as moms, we can come under you can come under attack. Someone, your ex accusing you, hey, I can't see my kid and it's your fault and blah blah blah. Okay, so let's look at it from both sides. Okay, now let's look at it from the exercise. So how do we guard against making sure we don't get accused of that? All right, because that's one big thing guys bang the drum about all the time. You're not allowing me to see my kid. Okay, so I know sometimes as moms we are concerned, when we don't have control. Kids are out of our sight. We don't know what's going on in his household, except for the little snippets that sometimes the kids may tell you here and there. For example, I had one young lady who was really upset, and she said he's using stale bread to make the sandwiches, and he's making bologna sandwiches with this bread that's all hard and it's got some mold on it, and and I understand, you want to make sure that your kids don't come back sick from eating something they're not supposed to eat, and something that's been spoiled. You're concerned that the milk that he's using from the cereal expired 5 days ago. I get it, and it's something I'm trying to help to bring up to make a little bit light of, but I understand it. I understand it's serious, and I know that it really offends you and hurts your feelings because you feel like he's not taking care of your baby. So I get that. But if we look at it from a context of how would a judge look at it, so that's really what you always have to have in your mind. How would the judge look at it? For the judge who sees case after case each and every day, would the judge really see that that's something that says, hey, he can't see the kids? Is that enough? Have we gotten to that level? Have we cleared the hurdle that we need to clear to say, hey, is that enough to say, cut off your contact? And to be honest, your right to see your kids is you have to pretty much look at it like the same right that you have to vote, the same right. It's almost like a constitutional right, okay, to see your kids. So that's the high level that you have to reach, okay? So depending on what state you live in, sorry, bugs that bother me. So depending on what state that you live in, because every state is different, you may not be clearing that hurdle depending on what's going on. So if it's something like that, kind of like a quality of, what I call quality of life thing, like, using, the food that's kind of, hard and been in the refrigerator for 2 weeks. And so, you have to, is that enough to cut off somebody's constitutional right? Is that enough to say, you can't vote, you can't see your kid, you can't, travel freely within the United States, that type of thing? Does it rise to that level? So that's really the question that you have to ask yourself. Is a judge likely to say, hey, you're going to have to cut off contact with using moldy bread or something like that, okay? So, we look at it that way, and, a lot of, let's just say a lot of people who will go and say, hey, that's not enough. I understand that she's upset, but, we need to work out something else. Or, hey, let's send them to parenting class instead of saying, hey, we can't see you. Now, I know you say, okay, how am I going to get them to see parenting class? Or how am I going to get them to do that? Well, there might be an alternative. It's what I do, where I always try to find alternative solutions than you guys having to run to the courthouse and pay thousands of dollars to have somebody help you. So what can be something that we can do that's out of court that could be helpful? Okay, one thing is to keep a calendar or keep a journal of the stuff sometimes that your kids tell you that concern you. For example, hey, I didn't have Daddy said we can skip a shower today. So that's why I came home a little funky today. Or, Daddy didn't have a chance to wash my clothes before we got back this weekend, or whatever it was. You can start charting that down. Again, I don't think it's going to be, that probably won't rise to the level of, saying, hey, he can't see the kids, or, but it might be something that will get him into the realm if you do end up going back to court. So, come on, something in the realm that says, hey, he has to go to parenting class. Hey, he has to do X, Y, and Z. Hey, he has to make sure that he does these things before he returns the kids, or he has to do these things while he has possession of the kids, or while he has, his visitation time with the kids. So what I would suggest is that you document. Have an online calendar, or a hard copy of a calendar that you actually physically writing down the stuff, or keep a journal. Keep a journal, and write down these things, so that way over 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, that you have enough to say, hey, you can actually after maybe a few months, say, hey, this is what's been going on. This is, what happened on this date, and we need to talk about this. We need to address this. If you're at a situation where things have broken down, you're really not talking, then send them a certified letter. Say, hey, on this date this happened. Make the bullet points. This happened, and this I would like for this to change. This is what I would like for you to do, X, Y, and Z. And if you're not, then we might have to you might have to spend some money. So if we look at it, what is his interest? What is his interest? He doesn't want to go back, spend time, losing time off work to go back to court. He doesn't want to have to spend thousands of dollars to go back to court, to hire somebody to help him to figure this out. So you can flip the script by doing it that way and saying, hey, these are the things that concern me, and this is what's going to happen if this is what I'm going to ask for if things don't change. I'm so sorry. They are swarming around me today. So these are the things that are going to change. These are the things I'm going to ask for if things don't change. And so, sometimes too, I know one lady, she just goes ahead and sends the food. She says, here's a cooler. I know it's a pain in the butt. Here's a cooler with, my child's food for the weekend. Make sure he eats right. So if it comes to that, rather than, that's a heck of a lot cheaper. Yeah, it's a pain in the butt shouldn't have to pay for the food that your child eats while while your child is with your ex. I get that. But it's a heck of a lot cheaper and less stress and less on your mind than, again, having to go back to court and all the emotions and all the taxing that does to your mind and your emotions and all that stuff. Yeah, it's a pain. You shouldn't have to do that. We always have to put on our big girl pants and take care of stuff. But, we do that. I know you do that as moms. We just, we love our kids. We love them. And so we do what we need to do. And sometimes we just find the least path of resistance and, go there. Some things, especially if you start to build up one thing on another, so it's layering and layer and layer and layer, then, yeah, you might have to, after a while, okay, this is where we're going to have to end up. But so that's a good way to avoid having to say, hey, I don't like it when you have our child, because I feel like you're really not taking care of them because X, Y, Z. Came home without a shower. He came home with all these dirty clothes. He said that the milk tasted funny, and when he's eating the cereal and all that stuff. So you always want to guard against being accused of trying to block visitation. Judges hate that. They hate it. It's study after study after study that says kids benefit when they see both parents frequently. So, hey, Willow. Love you. Thanks for joining me. I just love it because you just support me so much. Thank you. And so just know you want to guard against that, because, judges, they go crazy when they hear that, or when they think they might suspect that. So if it's your word against his, it's a free for all. Who knows how the judge is. Thanks, Willow. Love you too. I see the heart. You just don't know how the judge. Judge could wake up on the wrong side of the bed that morning. We want to make sure that we're in a situation whereas we're in court fighting for custody of our kids. Okay. Because that's what it'll come down to. When you get accused of trying to block your ex from seeing your kids, that's usually when they say, okay, I'm going to start to fight for custody. And that's such, I hate that. I hate that. So, so just know that, that could be an issue. On the opposite side of that, there may be situations whereas, you have a real strong, high probability that something's going on. So if you, suspect that something like, God forbid, that there's some type of issue going on between maybe your ex and whoever he's seeing now, that, might be, they might be fighting a lot, whether it's arguing or sometimes physically, altercations that he's getting into with his new girlfriend, stuff like that. Yeah, then that if you think about how a judge would think of it, okay, ding, 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 okay, there might be some family violence going on in his household. Doesn't involve you, but in his household. Stuff like that, judges will sit up and say, hey, okay, there may be something I need to do here. So that's the way that I want you to kind of think about these things. So if there's a workarounds that are, pain in the butt, quality of life things like, spoiled milk, moldy bread, stuff like that, things that we can work around so that you don't get accused of trying to block him from seeing him. Because I tell you, a lot of the things now, they have some attorney law firms that are really starting to cater to men. They have men's divorce school. They'll have stuff like that you see on the internet, and that they're telling men like your ex to say, hey, if you want to, try to fight for custody of your kids, start doing this. So they'll tell them, start writing down every time she says you can't see the kids, or if your child is sleeping, they say, if you say you can't see them, write it down. If they say the child can't come to the phone, write it down. So they're starting to keep a journal. They're starting to keep a calendar of all those things. So they're starting to tell men to do that. So I want you ladies to be aware of that. There's different stuff on the internet that, guys are paying attention to now. Like I said, I saw this divorce men's school, so, you just don't know what they're looking at on the internet or who they've been talking to. They may be talking to their guy friends and say, yeah, man, I saw this. Check out this video. Check out this and that. They say guys to do this and you can get custody of your kids and you can, you don't have to pay child support no more. So just be aware, ladies. Don't be accused of, trying to alienate and turn against, your child turn against your ex, okay? And that's another thing, too. Be careful, things that you may say around your kids. That's another thing that they'll say, hey, she's alienating me. So sometimes, if it, flies out of your mouth, oh, your dad's such a jerk. Why is he doing this? Da, 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 da. And they start repeating that. They may be writing that down, okay? So just be very, very careful, even though sometimes, your ex may be, silly, immature, whatever it is, he may not be the best housekeeper and his house is, a disaster area, whatever it is, we want to make sure that, we try as much as possible not to say that when it's possible that our kids may be able to overhear you. Because, the kids are sponges and they do, unwittingly repeat things, before you know it, you've got a, letter in the mail saying, hey, you're doing X, Y, and Z, and so, we're going back to court. So I just want to protect you ladies, know what's out there, want you to guard against being accused of this stuff, because, sometimes, we have our exes and they get what I call cheerleaders. And cheerleaders are the girlfriends or the new wives who say, you know what? Why are we paying her all that child support? We're expecting our own baby and I'm going to be home anyway. Why don't we just have the kids move in with us? So that way, we don't have to pay her all that child support. And then they'll start thinking of ways to try to, to cause upset in your household, okay? I don't know how else to put it. And so just be very careful about that, guard against that. And two, whenever, kids love both parents, they want to love both parents, and, when they hear something bad about dad, it makes them feel bad. And so we want to make sure that, our kids are growing up healthy and happy, and as much as we can, we're going to support them to grow up to be healthy adults. So that's it for Lunch with Laura. I hope you find that helpful. And so just know what's out there. You see Google, divorce for men, all this stuff's going to come up. You'd be surprised. So just be careful and make sure your ex isn't Googling divorce for men and watching all this stuff too. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Enjoy the rest of your lunch, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.